KCTV5 has been asking local police departments a lot of questions. Our investigative team would like to know more about lethal force techniques. What happens when police confront subjects and they don't want to draw weapons? What happens then? Investigative reporter Angie Racono takes a closer look at neck restraints.
KCK doesn't use them, and they haven't for decades, but they do use something called a shoulder pin.
I drive my shoulder into his armpit. I come around to the side of his neck. I get my grip.
This is a shoulder pin.
My whole head comes in contact with his neck to protect this back here as well as me. It's for officer safety and subject safety. And I step back and squeeze all this together to lock it in place for better control. Take a step back and I just rotate down on my inside knee.
It's a takedown move that eventually cuts off blood flow and a subject passes out.
Within 5-7 seconds, he could go unconscious. We actually kind of expect that to happen if we're going to put this on somebody with a high-level resistor.
High level.
High level.
KCKPD agreed to show us this technique after we questioned all metro area departments about neck restraints. KCK hasn't used neck restraints in 30 years.
Police officer, put your hands behind your back.
Other departments still use them. Kansas City, Missouri draws a fine distinction between chokeholds and this technique. It's called the LVNR, lateral vascular neck restraint. You're saying this can't go into a chokehold maneuver?
No, if she gets proper encirclement right off the bat, it can't move into a chokehold because she'll move through the levels and keep it straightened out.
Roll your sign.
It was created right here in Kansas City in the 1970s. KCPD shared it across the nation and around the world. Lots of departments now learn and use this technique. The department says this gives them another option besides drawing a weapon. But the murder of George Floyd changed the way many departments and President Trump now view some lethal force techniques. Many departments are ending or suspending the use of neck restraints. Olathe Police tells KCTV5 we have an LV in our policy, which is currently being reevaluated due to the presidential order. And Lenexa Police told us VNR is one of our allowed and trained force options. However, as a result of President Trump's executive order, we have suspended its use. Overland Park does not use any neck restraint. KCK explained they don't either, but they do use a shoulder pin and offer to show us the difference.
It has various applications, not just me coming up from behind you like the LVNR.
KCKPD says this maneuver is more flexible and safer.
It can be applied in a multitude of different avenues. So the general principle is we are protecting the trachea and there is a lack of intense pain.
It's similar to other sleeper restraints where an officer applies pressure to vessels and eventually the subject passes out.
Hey man, stop resisting. He's like, all right.
KCK says this tool rarely comes out of the toolbox.
He'll get into an arrest situation.
They never used it last year and only a handful of times annually.
We've had no injuries that have been reported.
Here's a clearer overall picture of the department's use of force. Last year, they had more than 200,000 calls for service. They made more than 7,700 arrests. They used force 257 times. 52 times an officer pointed a gun. 4 times a gun was fired. 2 suspects were killed. But once again, they never used the shoulder pin technique. Our investigative department is now questioning what happens next when lethal force is used, who investigates, and we're also taking a closer look at officer complaints. We'll have both of those reports in the coming weeks. In Kansas City, Kansas, Angie Racono, KCTV5 News.